Hi, I'm Ross, lifetime natural bodybuilder. I'm going to take some time today to answer some of the questions that you've left me. I'm just going to start off by saying thank you to those of you that have left questions both in this and the previous Q&A. I really appreciate it. And a big thank you to all of my subscribers, people that watch the videos and comment, like the videos on a regular basis. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much. This will be the last video I do for 2020. Need a little bit of a break, so we're back on YouTube in January 2021. So I'd like to wish you all a very happy Christmas and a good new year. Okay, so the first question comes from Moskos the Gallant, and he asks, are there any indicators for someone if it's better to compete in men's physique, classic or open, or is it just how big you are? So there are some indications. Ideally for men's physique, looking for a very small waist, a good V taper, so a nice wide shoulder structure. Same as classic really, but just a little bit more density. And obviously legs as well are very important in classic. With physique you can get away with having less density in the upper body and thighs. You don't need to be quite as thick set in the chest and the back area. It's more about width from what I can tell and good ab development. But there's nothing stopping you, if you're a good physique competitor or a good classic competitor, from putting on more muscle mass and becoming a good open competitor. It's just a matter of putting on that muscle mass. So going up, I don't see any problem from going from category to category. However, if you're, let's say, a real genetic outlier, someone that's got an exceptionally wide waist, someone that's really just naturally very thick set, quite large bone structure, then you're probably going to want to go towards the open category. But you can overcome genetic limitations through good presentation, training and diet. Especially presentation, you can really make a big difference in how you showcase your physique. So I think for most people we don't need to worry, and just really do whatever class that you feel you want to. Okay, next question comes from EVS, and he asks, when you get lean for a show or for any other reason, how hard was it to maintain and how hard was it to progressively overload / train hard? I'm talking like 10% fat or below. It's certainly a lot easier to maintain than to lose body fat to get down to a desired percentage. It becomes mentally very difficult though, depending on how low you go. There's a big difference between staying at 7% and 11%, especially if you've maybe started the diet at 22%. By the time you get down there, you're going to be mentally exhausted, and you're probably going to want to stop dieting, to be honest. So yeah, it can be mentally rather than physically difficult. How hard was it to progressively overload / train hard? Well, progressive overload is very difficult because you're losing weight all the time. That's obviously going to affect your leverages and your ability to lift more weight. So forget about that really if you get really lean. Maybe in the first few weeks of a cut, you can get away with it, but deep into a cut where you're kilos of body weight lower than you were in the off season, then your main focus is to keep hold of strength. If that, you're probably going to lose some, let alone increasing your strength, unfortunately. Training hard, well, intensity really, from when I've dieted, hasn't been affected by dieting. In fact, you'll find that your mental motivation will increase because you'll be closer towards your goal. You're looking a lot better. Perhaps if you've got like an end date in mind or a competition or something, a target, you're getting close to that. Tunnel vision really sets in, and your motivation goes for the roof really, and you want to train harder. You should be training hardest in the off season when you're fatter, when you're able to lift more weight, but mentally you feel like sometimes you can do more when you're leaner. So that won't be affected whatsoever, assuming you're not messing your diet and or cardio up. Excuse me. What was the leanest you've been for an extended time? You could also make gains feel good. Really depends on you as a person and your journey as a lifter. So where are you in your journey? You just started, you've been training for a number of years. Really depends. First few years that I was training, I felt like I made really good gains. Just because I trained with a really high intensity. I was very consistent. I was consistently under eating, more likely in a deficit of calories for that entire period of time unknowingly. But yeah, made good progress. I wouldn't like to do that now because I feel like I'd potentially be leaving gains on the table, whilst being too lean. I feel like there's perhaps more potential to get stronger and gain more muscle mass with a slightly higher body fat percentage, but earlier on, not a problem. So it just depends where you are in your journey. Okay, next question comes from GMAC, And he asks, not really training and diet as such, but it's running up to Christmas and the festivities. What food, drink do you enjoy / allow yourself as a treat? Is it monitored, or do you just enjoy the Christmas period, then get back right to strict training diet after? So for me at the moment, I don't plan on limiting myself in any way in terms of the diet over Christmas. I mean, I'm bulking, so to a certain extent it's all going to help. So yeah, really kind of quite free and relaxed in terms of the diet. I don't really drink at all, more or less teetotal really. I might have a very small tipple at some point, but alcohol just doesn't really do it for me. I just don't see it as a positive experience really. It's only going to affect me negatively, so I just don't enjoy it. The training will probably be, I mean, now unfortunately we're in tier 4. I live in Essex, so we're tier 4, so gyms are closed again, unfortunately. So my training frequency will probably be a little bit less than what it's been. I may well increase the intensity of the training sessions. I'll probably do like 3 over the Christmas week, whack up the intensity, make sure that they're harder than they've been over the last 3 weeks or so, but just do 3 sessions as opposed to 5 or 6. And then probably as soon as the gyms open back up again, the frequency will go up, and the intensity will come back down a bit, and I'll start hitting the volume hard again. But yeah, diet will really be no different. In fact, it's a great excuse to continue to eat more food and continue to bulk. Okay, so the next question comes from CR. He asked 2 questions. The first one is, what are your thoughts on high rep hill elevated goblet squats? Well, it's a good exercise. Obviously, the hill being elevated puts more emphasis on the quads. Quite, considerably so actually, more than if your heels were flat. Obviously a little bit more lower back and glute orientation. However, my honest opinion with the goblet squats is that you won't be able to tax the legs hard enough because the upper body will fatigue first. However you do it, if you're holding a dumbbell like so, or kettlebells, mimicking like a front squat, your front delts and your forearms are going to tire more than likely first before your legs. So you're bottlenecking your leg training really by the fact that you won't be able to hold the damn weight with your upper body. I would suggest, good old back squats, high rep if you like, with hill elevation, works well. Or perhaps goblet squats, but keep the reps really low, and maybe think of another exercise to do for the higher rep stuff, because you just won't be able to reach that kind of intensity you want for the legs before that upper body goes, from my perspective, So question 2, I have a theory that a body is not designed to carry super heavy loads. That's why I do most lifts with a 12 to 15 rep range. Keep in mind that this does not mean I believe in easy work. I do believe the impact of heavy lifting is bad for your joints long term, and you'll not feel this now, but when you reach age 50 to 70, don't get me wrong, I acknowledge a lot of people can get away with it. What are your thoughts? For sure, you got a point. With every action, there's a reaction. There's always consequences to what you do. You just got to kind of weigh it up, I guess. Be as sensible as you can. But, there's a price to everything. I enjoy heavy lifting, but I'm well aware of the fact that it may well, impact my joints later on. I think, you just got to be sensible, and there's a massive benefit to lifting heavy as well as lifting light. Perhaps there's a genetic disposition as well. Certain people are perhaps more inclined to, suffer from wear and tear at a quicker rate than others, just the same as any other disease or autoimmune disease that people perhaps suffer from. There's a big genetic disposition as to how quickly that happens. And I think a combination of the two, with perhaps a good focus on stretching and foam rolling and adequate recovery, will certainly help, and it will help prolong your lifting life even when you're training heavy. It's about being sensible, but I really think you've got a point for sure, but I think you'll achieve more by combining the two styles together, from my experience. Moscas Gallant also response to this. Your second question got me thinking, pretty interesting. If we were to mimic nature, the low rep max mindset is similar to a life or death situation with the adrenaline. Maybe it could be done sparingly. For sure, that's a really good point. You don't want to be doing the super heavy stuff. 1 rep maxes too often, because you'll just wear yourself into the ground, and it will start to negatively impact your performance, and you'll find yourself just spinning the wheels, and you probably get weaker. It's just too much, too hard for the CNS to recover from, let alone the joint wear and tear. You know, when I say lift heavy, it's got to be sensible. Let's say you're doing sets of 3 with maybe a weight that you could do 4, maybe even 5 on sometimes, but doing multiple sets. That's going to be a lot better for you than doing 1 rep maxes, you know, every day. So yeah, you've got to be cautious, and you both got good points there. Ideally, you don't want to be maxing out too often, for sure. Not just in terms of joint health, but actual performance. It won't help you whatsoever. So be a little bit more conservative with the heavy lifting. That's the mindset I take. And then really, you know, go balls to the wall with the lighter stuff. So the next question comes from Scribbler, and he asks, what are your current views on protein intake requirements? I seem to recall you thought that it doesn't need to be especially high. Yeah, I think for the most part, especially when you're bulking, you don't need to worry too much about protein. I'd probably aim for 150, 160 plus grams of protein per day. If I can get it up to 200, that's a really, really good day. The thing is, when you're bulking, if you're consuming, like, let's say 3,000 calories, you know, it's more than likely your protein is going to be quite high, 150 plus. I think you need to be a little bit more careful and a little bit more accurate with your tracking of protein when you're dieting. It becomes more important. Perhaps need to raise it slightly. But it's more about carbohydrates, really, and keeping them as high as possible. I think for me personally, as a natural bodybuilder, I've seen great results from, you know, moderate protein, high to super high carbohydrate intake. I think as long as you're hitting a bare minimum protein or slightly above, just to be on the safe side, then, you know, it's all good. So probably aim for like 1.6 grams of protein per kilo of body weight, there or thereabouts, if not maybe a little bit more, just to be safe. Secondly, do you have any plans to compete again? Absolutely. I'm in an iron about competing next year or the year after. I want to go into a competition being absolutely sure that I'm going to blow my last physique out of the water. And I don't want to be, you know, worrying or thinking about maybe I'm not going to be better. And a lot of that comes down to the numbers that I'm lifting in the gym. I want to be stronger than I've ever been before, so I know for a fact that there's no way that I could be, you know, worse off than my last competition. So probably going to bulk for the remainder of this year and next year, and compete probably in 2022. We'll see how it goes though. You know, I'm itching to compete again. I want to win a show. I think I can. I've just got to be in the right kind of positive mental state before I worry about dieting again, because it's very difficult mentally to know that you're not going to make any more progress. Right, that's it. That's all the progress made. You got to diet now. It's, you know, you're only going downhill from there, if you will. So, yeah, either this year or next year, but probably either 2021 or 2022, more likely the latter. So John also asks, have you ever thought about competing in the physique category? The answer to that is no, only because, you know, there aren't many categories in natural bodybuilding, because it's a niche sport. There aren't many people that do it. You know, when you've got a competition, there aren't a huge amount of people that come in to do these shows, so there isn't a need for, you know, endless categories. As shows become more popular, then there needs to be more categories to break the numbers down a little bit more, so you can get people on the same stage together. But yeah, you know, not saying no, it's a possibility. I'll probably stick to, you know, natural bodybuilding open for the next show and see what happens after that. So thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the video, then please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to see more. Really appreciate all of your continued support and feedback over the past few months. Thanks once again. Have a lovely Christmas. Stay strong.